How did holidays collide like this? You got Canadian Thanksgiving, and on the same day, Columbus Day. Happy Columbus Day, U.S. Happy Thanksgiving, Canada. Because of that, we've got some early games. Early games. And then we got one late game because we got to have a late game in there too. Which means that I'm going to do the preview tonight. Post it now because if I wait until the morning, preview goes up, a half an hour before the game start? There's no point in that, so I'm not going to bother. Let's do this. The Ottawa Senators are in against Boston. This is... I don't have my Akbars ready, and it's too early in the season to start throwing Akbars up anyways. So, this is where I would put an Akbar game as a trap, other than the fact that the Ottawa Senators are actually ahead of Boston. So they don't count as a trap yet. Anderson's probably the starter. I would think Boston will go back to Tuukka. The goal-scoring leaders, the scoring leader for Ottawa is Shabbat with 2 goals and 2 assists. Fantastic. Zach Smith, 1 goal and 2 assists. Highly motivated early in the season as a result of being waived. Fantastic. Goaltending, there's Anderson with a .913 save percentage. That's below average for most years. That was average last year. I think average was .913 last year, down from .915 the year before. I don't know where we're going to end up this year, but right now it looks like scoring is up. From tonight, it was way up, like about 11 goals a game tonight. Holy crap. I don't expect that again tomorrow. But early games, that can happen. Teams get lazy on early games. Last year, the Ottawa Senators had an odd record to start the year. They had no wins, no losses, and 2 overtime losses. And this was a big argument I had with Sens fans, was that they kept losing games, but it would be in shootout or in overtime. So they're like, well, we're not losing in regulation, so we're okay. And I'm like, it's still, they're losing games. Their first game, they lost in a shootout to Washington 5-4, and then they lost in a shootout as well to Detroit 2-1. So I was like, well, they're just shootouts, treat them like ties, which I did. And eventually they weren't getting those anymore. Eventually it all fell apart. Now in Boston's 1-1 record, Tuukka Rask, as I said, likely the starter. Halak put up a .960 save percentage in the game he played. Rask a .737. Rask's goals against average right now, after that first game, is over 11. Marchand with 4 assists. He scored those in the last game they played. And Bergeron with a goal and an assist. So, we'll see which Boston Bruins show up. And last year, they were 1-1 after the first 2 games. They won 4-3 against Nashville. And then they got shut out 4-0 by Colorado. And that was pretty low for me as a Bruins fan. Because then it was followed up by another loss to Colorado, and I started feeling like this isn't going to be a bad October, and it was. Things got better after that, but it was a bad October last year for the Boston Bruins. So tomorrow night's game, or tomorrow morning's game, I would expect Ottawa to jump, and it's going to be up to Boston to be able to answer that and to be able to have a pushback on it. Next up, San Jose goes into the New York building with the vehicle. And San Jose is going to have to overcome that. Jones is likely the starter for San Jose. Leonard, I would think, gets a start here. Do they go with Greiss again? We'll see. Kane is the leading scorer for San Jose with 2 goals, no assists. There's 10 other players with 1 point. Whether it's a goal or an assist, there's 10 other players with 1 point. Last year at this point, they were actually 0-2. They lost to Philly 5-3, and they lost to LA 4-1. Martin Jones' save percentage right now is at .829. That's it's not great. So he's due for a good game, and the good news, bad news situation is it's the Islanders. The Islanders are also 1-1. Barzal's your leading scorer with 1 goal and 2 assists. Bailey is tied with a goal and 2 assists as well. As I said, Leonard probably starts. Greiss has a .928 save percentage in the games he's played. And last year they were also 1-1. They lost 5-0 to Columbus, and then they beat Buffalo 6-3. Everybody beat Buffalo. It seems by a score of about 6-3 or 6-2 last year. It was an ugly year for Buffalo. Now, if I had to handicap this one, I'd say, well, San Jose. I just walk away, right? But the Islanders have something to play for this year. There's pride on the line. And there's a coach behind the bench named Barry Trotz who's pretty good at getting the best out of teams that aren't necessarily the best. Look at over a decade in Nashville. and the fact that team was more competitive and won more games than they had any business winning. So when people say that a coach doesn't really make a difference, I can understand on some level, but I heard an interview with Rod Brindamore tonight where he admitted as a player he thought, coaching is easy. And then he started coaching and he realized, wow, there's a lot more to this than what I thought. So I think coaching gets underestimated when it comes to both losing and winning. And in this case, I think we're going to see more wins out of the Islanders than we might have expected. I still don't see them in the playoffs. Wouldn't be surprised if they end up in the cellar in that division, but I think that division is going to be a lot better than what people give it credit for. Which means that it is going to be a big challenge for San Jose. And Karlsson has to continue to show that he's acclimating well to San Jose in that lineup. And it probably will help him playing on the East Coast. That'll be something that he's familiar with from his entire career with the Senators. So this might be a really nice little road trip for Karlsson to get it going, and for Karlsson to become the guy that San Jose traded for during the summer. Next up, Vegas. For Vegas reasons, they're 1-1. They're in against Buffalo, who are 1-1 as well. For Hutton reasons. Now, Vegas' lead scorer is Marchessault with a goal and an assist. Pacioretty and Bellemare are the only other players with a goal. They both scored one. I would imagine Fleury will be in net. His save percentage so far through 2 games is .870. Subban's not on the board, but he has a perfect save percentage of 1,000. Saved every shot when he was in net. But Fleury, I think they're going to give him every opportunity to get as many starts as possible this year. I think he'll start anytime he wants to. I think as long as he tells Gallant, yeah, I'm good to go, I think he'll get in the net. On the other side of the ice, I would think Hutton's going to get in again. Buffalo has looked good through their first 2 games in net. Sherry with 2 goals is now the leader for goal scoring, and Eichel is tied for the points lead with 2, with a goal and an assist in the first 2 games. And I think we can all agree that Eichel, with that empty netter and 1 assist to go with that, he hasn't hit his stride yet. And once he hits his stride, we could see a lot of points out of Eichel this year. There's going to be a lot of people watching him because of the $10 million price tag that's now on him. And on Buffalo to show that with a $10 million player, they need to show some improvement. They can't afford to be a bottom feeder again. That would be just absolutely catastrophic. Hutton's .942 save percentage is excellent. Can he maintain that? We'll see. He had an excellent save percentage last year. He was one of the best goalies in the league last year if you looked at just pure numbers. He didn't play as many games as some of the other goaltenders, which is why, of course, you don't give Vezina votes to a guy who played 30-some games. But he played well enough to get a decent contract out of the Sabres, and now he wants to live up to that contract. Last year, Vegas went 2-0 in the first 2 games for Vegas reasons. I remember Dallas had him. Like, all right, well, Dallas should beat. And then Vegas wins it 2-1. And I'm like, how? And then they beat Arizona in overtime 2-1. And that was where I was like, well, yeah, they're 2-0, but it took overtime for them to beat Arizona. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. And they've only scored 4 goals in 2 games. So this year they've scored 3 goals in 2 games. And again, we're kind of having that reaction of, well, they're probably going to have some problems this year. It's probably going to be a bit of a down year for them. We're going to end up being wrong, aren't we? On the Buffalo side of things, last year they were 0-1-1. They lost 3-2 in a shootout against Montreal to start the season, and then they lost 6-3 against the New York Islanders. So Buffalo is already off to a better start than they were off to last season. They were 1 point ahead of last year's pace. Let's see if they can make it a couple by scoring a victory, getting something against a Vegas team that is always dangerous. It's so strange to think of Vegas as being that dangerous. And in that last game against Minnesota last night, I'm like, okay, well, they're going to lose. They're going to get Vegas on the road. It's a game they should win, and they're going to lose it. And then with a minute left, they tie it, and then they end up winning it. I'm like, okay, no, they Vegased it, right? They got it. It's Vegas. Next up, Detroit coming off of a tough loss tonight. Larkin now has a goal and 2 assists. Cholowski with a goal and 2 assists. They lose tonight against the LA Kings to drop to 0-1-1. I would imagine Howard will start tomorrow night. That's why Bernier would have got the start tonight. They're in Anaheim against a 2-0-0 Mighty Ducks. They're going to be the Mighty Ducks again, aren't they? It'll happen. Anyways, the Anaheim Ducks. John Gibson is their leader. And his save percentage is an intimidating 973 through those 2 wins. Howard's at 923. And the way Bernier played tonight, I would think he's going to be on the shelf for a little bit. Held off until the next back-to-back games. He's not winning himself starts with a game like that. Detroit's interesting because they are 0-1-1, and it's all kids now. Because Daly got hurt tonight, and at the time I'm recording this, I don't know how long Daly's going to be out, but with Daly out of the lineup, Cromwell's out of the lineup, Ericsson's out of the lineup, they were talking about how Nick Jensen is now the second longest serving defenseman of NHL games in Detroit's lineup, which tells you just how decimated that lineup really and truly is. And of course, Green. Green's the one that was escaping. He's also not playing. So that's a lot of defensemen not playing for Detroit, which is why you look at this blue line and it looks kind of green without green. If that's a thing. It's not really a thing. Let's not make that a thing. Don't make that a thing. Last year at this point, they were 2-0. They beat Minnesota 4-2. And then they won that shootout versus Ottawa 2-1, as stated up there. So Detroit got off to a decent start last year, and yet they feel to me like a team that's more of a dark horse this year because we don't expect anything. Last year there was some expectation they should be at least in the running for a playoff spot. Yeah, they should be close. They probably don't make it, but they'll be close, and then they weren't really close at the end. Anaheim, on the other end, was 1-0-1. At this point last year, they beat Arizona 5-4. Of course, they're coming off of a win over Arizona again this year. And then they lost in overtime to Philly 3-2. This is the same Philadelphia Flyer team that had beaten San Jose as well 5-3. So Anaheim needs to be careful because Detroit should be angry. They outshot LA. They outchanced LA. The only thing they didn't do was get a point out of LA, and now they're going in against Anaheim. Anaheim's going to need to weather, I would think, a tough first period against Detroit. If they can come out of that first period tied or up by a goal, I like their chances. But again, Anaheim's got some interesting holes to fill as well with Perry out for an extended period. Nobody having any idea, it seems, on what's going on with Kessler, how much he'll play, if he'll play, when he'll play. So it's gonna come down to the kids, and Comtois has been fantastic, which is awesome because during the summer I said he could really be a steal for them. I like the look of the kid's resume, and now here he is with pretty solid performances in his first couple of games, and likely is responsible in part for Anaheim's record. So there you go. You're all set for tomorrow's games. 4 of them on the schedule. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. Just tap upon this video. And there's 4 tomorrow. I think there's 3 the next day, and then I think there's 6 the next day. This is a light week for hockey, isn't it? Okay, that being said, thank you guys so much for watching again, and I'll talk to you again soon.